Good afternoon. Welcome to our Reliability and Security Oversight Update. It's my pleasure to be here with you. My name is Maylee Cook, and I'm a Training and Outreach Specialist at WECC. We'll start off today with a couple announcements. First, we have our Reliability in the West discussion series. Just an item to note with this one, we've bumped it back a week to April 9th to prevent a scheduling conflict with the CREPC YRAB meeting. So hopefully you'll be able to attend all those meetings you need to attend. This session will explore data and modeling and how we use that modeling to help plan and operate the system. So we'd love to have you join us for that discussion, and we'll get the information for joining in the chat. Also, next week is our Reliability and Security Workshop, which will be in person in Tempe, Arizona. That room is currently at capacity, so the in-person registration is sold out, but we would love to have you join us as a virtual attendee, and that registration is open through noon tomorrow, so that's noon Mountain tomorrow. For our antitrust policy, all WECC meetings are conducted in accordance with the WECC antitrust policy and the NERC antitrust compliance guidelines. All participants must comply with the policy and guidelines. This meeting is public. Confidential or proprietary information should not be discussed in open session. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. By participating, you give your consent for your name, voice, image, and likeness to be included in that recording. WECC strives to ensure the information presented today is accurate and reflects the views of WECC. However, all interpretations and positions are subject to change. If you have any questions, please contact WECC's legal counsel. We'd love to have you ask questions during this call. Please feel free to send those to WECC meetings through the chat feature or use the raise hand and we'll call on you to ask your question aloud. Here is our agenda for the day, so I will turn the time over to Donovan Crane to get us started.
All right. Thank you, Maylee. Appreciate it. Again, yeah, my name is Donovan Crane. I'm a senior engineer here in the standards department, and I'll be giving the standards and standards feedback portion of this. So can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so we'll start this off with some WECC standards projects that are going on here at WECC. We recently had a WSC call on the 3rd. Several of these items were approved and pushed forward. We had the WECC 142 project. They approved this project to go out for industry ballot. This is the project that is looking to retire the WECC BAL standard for the contingency reserve and move along in that direction. So the WSC approved that to go out for industry ballot, and we'll be looking to get that hopefully out here. We'll know how that's going to be done here at the end of March and get going with that. The WECC 155 project was a 5-year review that was performed on the WECC criterion, the PRC, the PRC 6. It was accepted, the no change recommendation. The team looked at this, they looked over it. Did anything need to change? They came back with a no change recommendation. So this project is complete after the acceptance of that from the WSC. And then we also had WECC 156. This is the project that will be looking at, there was some registration criteria that was changed at NERC. And so they'll be looking at the standard to see, does it need to be changed? Is there approval or updates that need to be made to keep in line with that? The drafting team was seated. The WSC accepted that slate, and the drafting team will begin working the first week of April again for that project. So we have those 3 are the main projects going on here at WECC for our standards projects. We'll go to the next slide, please. At NERC, as always, there's the 901 projects that are going on. And right now there's the 2022-02, which is the modeling framework, 2020-06 for model and data verification for generators, and then 2021-01 for system level model verification for IBRs. All 3 of these are currently out for QR. The drafting team has been working pretty strongly to go for an April posting. So they're out for QR until the 24th. The teams will come back, make sure that everything is ready for posting, and they'll be going out for comments and ballots. They're aiming for, I believe, April 17th is when that comment and ballot should start, and all 3 of them are looking for about the same time frame. So be on the lookout for those to go out and participate in the ballots and the comments for that. There's also an industry engagement workshop that is going to be held for the milestone 3. This is currently scheduled for June 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They haven't yet announced the location for that, but that should be coming shortly. They're aiming for this after the ballots to go through, so that when the ballots and comments come back, they'll be able to address those at that, and take the next step and give a good direction to that. For all these projects, internally, we have the standards feedback team made up of some of our senior technical experts, and also here with standards, so that we can look at these, we can follow them, we can make sure that we're giving feedback, where does WECC stand, but also so we can come to this forum and to others, present our voice and say, hey, we love your feedback on that. Always looking at it. I'll pitch it every time I can come on, as it is industry driven. We very much do need your participation, your comments, the votes and the ballots. So just trying to keep you up on this and on this work. But that's generally where we're at. It's been kind of the same for the last little bit, but there's the heavy focus on 901 at NERC, and these 3 projects has been their focus. So with that, that's about the update that I have on those. If there's any questions, again, please feel free to reach out. But with that, that's what I have.
Thank you for that update, Donovan. I don't have any questions that have come through for you yet, so we'll go ahead and move on to Curtis.
Good day. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Maylee, for setting this up. It's always a tremendous effort, and you do it so easily, but I certainly appreciate it. Curtis Cruz, Senior Technical Advisor here at WECC. Cold weather update. You should know that EOP 12-3 comment period, the 321 comment period, closed March 12th. On March 11th, we had 45 pages worth of comments. When it closed, we had 125 pages worth of comments. So it's good to see that we're getting participation in the process, getting that involved. Since that time, been working with NERC staff and Standards Committee staff on responding to each and every one of those comments. I think it was important to see and make sure that we capture all the comments in an effective manner and respond to them as much as we can. There's a lot of comments about the NERC process, the constraint and cap extension process. Worked with NERC staff on updating that document as well, based on some of the comments. So you'll see a new version of that whenever that gets posted. The standard itself may undergo some changes. Remember, 321 allows that to occur. So, and based on some of the comments, you'll see that some changes may have occurred in different areas of the standard. So be cognizant of that. You may have seen an email just today, based on all the comments that have come in and all the work to get the technical rationale, the RSAW, the standard in a good place and answer all the comments. NERC has asked for an extension of time to submit to FERC. I believe it's no later than April 14th. I do have the announcement. I'll send it in the chat. But it was to give enough time to make sure that we answered things effectively, that we're looking at the comments in a constructive manner, and make sure we give due diligence in responses. The ERO Enterprise is planning a small group advisory session on EOP 12-3. A lot of it will likely focus on constraints, the process, and what might be expected there. The more guidance that we can provide out there on how to smooth the rails, so to speak, to get constraints through the process will help everybody, including us here at WECC, as we go through a review and validation of generator cold weather constraints. So look forward to that as soon as I get more firm dates. It's just going to be in the summer, so we get to talk about cold weather during the summer. But I think it's a good topic to keep in mind, because winter will be here before we know it. You may have noticed something in the WECC newsletter, WECC weekly newsletter, about spring. Today is the first day of spring, so it's a good opportunity to look back on what happened during the winter. And I say that we're here I live in Colorado, and I think Monday I had a blizzard. So cold weather can still affect us, still be out there, but be thinking about what you want to do after the season, looking back on what happened at your location to see if there's any changes to your cold weather plan that may be needed. But I think that's all I have for today. As that filing gets posted. Certainly, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send them to me. I try to respond as quickly as I can to all of them, but I think that's all I have, Maylee.
Thank you so much. We do have a question for you, Curtis. It says, do you know the status of the cold weather data request?
Yes, they're going through testing right now. NERC staff is looking at the interface, so to speak, and working with the document associated with the cold weather participation. We had a discussion Tuesday, I believe, about that. So it's close to being posted out there. I forget the exact posting date. They know, and we know as well, that that cold weather data request will have to be updated for EOP 12-3. I mean, it was based on EOP 12-2. There wasn't enough time to make any changes to that data request. So it's on track. It should be out there, I think, not too long from now. I'll try to find a date after I get off here. I know I saw a date somewhere, but I'll try to get that to you in the chat. But it's definitely moving forward.
Thank you so much, Curtis. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to Fahad for a NERC WECC update.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be going over some of the significant NERC and WECC items that has recently been published or occurred. We might not have the relevant SMEs on the call today. Should you have any clarifying questions about the items going to be discussed in this session? But if you do, then please leave a question in the chat and we'll follow up with you. Or you can also send an email at oversight@wec.org. Now, first off is the recently approved standards by FERC. Last month, FERC approved TPL 8-1 with the purpose of establishing requirements for transmission system planning performance for extreme heat and extreme cold temperature events applicable to entities registered as TP and PC. The effective date of this standard is April 1st, 2026. Related to the inverter-based resources, PRC 28 version 1 along with updated PRC 2 version 5 was approved by the Commission to address disturbance monitoring and reporting requirements for applicable TOs and GOs. These two standards will go into effect on April 1st, 2025. Also approved now is PRC 30 to identify, analyze, and mitigate unexpected IVR change of power output. Related to these issues is also IVR's ability to write through frequency and voltage excursions, which is being addressed via PRC 29. Therefore, the effective date of this standard is still TBD and will be dependent on the approval of PRC 29. All these dates are also captured in the new supplemental guide that NERC published a couple of days back called Reliability Standards Compliance Dates for Generator Owners and Operators. This document, NERC plans on updating on a quarterly basis. So keep an eye on it for any of the new standards that gets approved and which will be applicable for IVR. With regard to energy reliability assessments to evaluate energy assurance across near-term transmission planning and operations planning, BAL 7 version 1 and TOP 3 version 7 were also approved. The effective date for BAL 7 is April 1st, 2027. Regarding TOP 3, the version 6.1 will still go into effect as planned in July. and the version 7 will be effective from October 1st, 2026, next year. Next slide. NERC held a webinar on March 3rd addressing the ERO Enterprise CMEB Practice Guide, application of the registration criteria for Category 2 generator owner and operator. This practice guide is intended to provide guidance to the regional staff to support the consistent application of the revised registration criteria thresholds for Category 2 generator owner and operators. The recording and the material for this webinar is now available on the NERC website. Also, as a reminder, system operator, NERC certified or NERC system operator certification program has moved to or is moving to Pearson VUE as a new exam delivery vendor, and the transition is scheduled to occur next week on March 25th. Next slide. Moving on to some of the significant happenings on March 4 and 5, WECC held enforcement fundamentals training. This training process this training actually prepares registered entity staff to resolve non-compliance with the standards. Attendees of this training learn about the enforcement process, including how to find and use industry guidance to prepare a non-compliance report. Currently, there is no future training scheduled for enforcement fundamentals. If in case it gets scheduled, then it'll definitely be notified in the next weekly news, or hopefully in the next in the monthly updates. As mentioned earlier by Meili, the spring workshop is next week. The workshop is ideal for compliance program generalists, people who are new to the industry or in compliance roles, PCCs and alternates, and anyone interested in learning more about how to develop and improve their CMEP are encouraged to dial in. WECC also posted an assessment of large loads and a connection risks in the Western Interconnection report in partnership with Elevate Consulting. This was also discussed during the board meeting. This report aims to inform decision makers about the surging growth of large loads and underscore the challenges and reliability risk arising from the interconnection of facilities like data centers, cryptocurrency mining operations, large industrial manufacturing, and aggregate transport electrification. A very interesting read, highly encouraged to go through that report. WECC also posted an update to the Western Assessment Resource Adequacy. And lastly, WECC conducted a line training for entities in British Columbia province. Not sure if any future aligned training is scheduled. Do you know? Sorry to put you on spot, Meili, but do you know of any future aligned training?
Yeah, so the initial ones that we just did were for self-reports and mitigation, and those are completed, but we're working on getting the recordings and the slides posted to WECC's website, and a communication will be made when those are available. As for the other modules and functions of Align, those training modules will be coming in the near future. So things like periodic data submittals, as well as your audit and entity monitoring tools, those will happen as needed in the near future. So yeah, those are coming.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for that. And that is all from me. And like I mentioned, if there is any questions, feel free to drop in the chat. If you cannot answer it here, we'll definitely follow up with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Fahad. We did get a quick question about our grid fundamentals courses. We do have 2 more planned for later this year. We have an in-person offering in August of 2025, as well as a virtual one in November. I will be sure to get those dates in the chat for folks. But yes, we will have 2 more grid fundamentals offerings later this year. All right, let me double check if I have any other questions. We do have a question that says, NERC posted revised cause codes for self-reports and self-logs. These cause codes will be loaded into Align later this year. Does WECC plan to provide training to entities in the next few months on how to use these new cause codes? Thank you so much for that question, and we will take that back. We're about to turn the time over to Jimmy. If he'd like to answer that, he can, or otherwise we'll get you an answer in the near future on that. We'll go ahead and move on to Jimmy now.
Yes, thanks, Maylee. Yeah, there will be some training, and I just don't have the dates for that. We'll provide the information as we get it. So I'm here just to provide a brief update on some enforcement processing trends. And if we go to the next slide, please. I'll start out with just general comments on our current inventory. We have around 440 entities as of March 1st. We had an inventory of 911, which is down 8% from a high of 989 in August of 2024. 79% of the inventory was reported remediated or mitigated. For the remaining 21% of inventory, entities are either developing mitigation plans or are working to complete their implemented mitigation plans. But as a whole, entities are quickly addressing the risk of their noncompliance, which is a good story. Going on to the chart, this chart is a comparison of processing trends over the last 2 years. Over the last 12 months, our inventory, or incoming inventory, was 391 compared to 420 the previous 12 months. Really, between the two numbers, incoming inventory has been pretty consistent, with a really difference of only 2.5 cases per month on average between those 2 years. Over the last year, there's been an increase in self-logged inventory from 10% to 25%. This is due to us more than doubling our self-logged entities over the last 18 months. We started 11 a couple years ago, and we're up to 25 that are in the program. We processed 400 cases over the last year compared to 213 cases the year before. This is an 88% increase in our processing. So finally, we're over the hump, and we are outgoing cases are exceeding the number of incoming cases. This trend will we expect this trend to continue as our team is training and continue to dive into these cases. But really, this is due to, in large part, for us restructuring the enforcement department. 2 years ago, we consolidated a separate risk assessment mitigation department into the enforcement department. Now all individuals working on the same cases are in the same department. Following that, in October 2023, we implemented a new collaborative procedure, which we have an attorney and RAM engineer team approach for processing all of our cases. And then we also added into our procedure specific processing timelines that staff fully, so they fully understand the expectations and for accountability. Because of our increase in processing, it follows that our mitigation acceptance reviews have increased significantly to 361 over the last year from only 146 the previous year. You can see that we are verifying less mitigation, which is the reverse trend, now than years past. This is because we transitioned to a risk-based approach for our verification reviews. So currently we review 100% of mitigation associated with our settlements, and then we do a sample mitigation for the compliance exceptions and find, fix, and track, or FFTs. If you move to the next slide, please. Okay, so this chart is a comparison of trends for self-report and self-log noncompliance. Before I go over the numbers, I will add that many entities not in the self-log program have very robust controls. About 94% of our entities are not in the self-logging program. So it doesn't take many entities with less robust controls to skew the numbers a bit. So getting into the chart, 51% of the self-log noncompliance was discovered within 90 days compared to 32% of the self-reported noncompliance. 41% of self-log noncompliance was reported within 90 days of discovery compared to 26% of self-reported noncompliance. 99% of self-log noncompliance was remediated prior to reporting versus 90% of self-reported noncompliance. These percentages are very high and really suggest that noncompliances are mostly one-offs or limited in scope, which really is supported by the following column, or the next column. 100% of the self-log noncompliance was processed as minimal risk compared to 82% of those self-reported. Really, there's no surprise that all self-log noncompliance was processed as minimal risk, simply because only minimal risk issues are allowed to be self-logged. But 82% of the self-report noncompliance processed as minimal risk is really aligned with our historical trends, where we typically see a range of 80 to 85% of noncompliance processed as minimal risk. We do average about 3 months to process self-log noncompliance compared to about 6.5 months for the self-reported noncompliance. This is because we generally receive more details in the self-log noncompliance than what we see from the larger population of non-self-logged entities. And why this is so is this really reduces the number, more robust details in the self-log, and reduces the number of requests for information, or RFIs as we call them, which reduces the time to process, because we don't have to draft and send RFIs and wait for RFI responses, which often require clarification or additional RFIs and RFI responses. Although we see many entities with detailed self-reports, it takes us about twice as long to process those reported minimal risk issues. And again, this is in part because the non-self-logged entity population is so large and consists of many entities that do not provide enforcement level detail, requiring us to send RFIs, and often multiple RFIs. And that concludes the general trends, processing trends, and see if there are any questions.
Thanks so much for that update, Jimmy. It's interesting to see where those numbers are taking us. I am not seeing any questions for you at the moment. We'll give it one more beat in case there's someone typing up out there. But while we're waiting for that, I just want to thank all of our presenters today for being here and preparing this material for you all. And I'm still not seeing any questions from the audience, so we'll go ahead and wrap a little early today. Thank you all for being here. If we go to our next slide, we will see you here again in April, on April 17th, 2 p.m. Mountain. And then also, please feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. Our handle is @WECC Reliability. We'd love to engage with you there. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day.